Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today, we're tackling the SUI network outage.
Yeah, this one's got everyone talking.
Big time. Especially because SUI's been getting so much hype lately, right?
Totally. Dubbed the Solana killer and all that.
Exactly. But then, boom, 2-hour outage. So we're digging into what happened, what it means for SUI's future, and what this tells us about the whole blockchain world. Our main source is this article, SUI restores operations following 2-hour outage.
It's a good one. Lots to unpack.
Absolutely. So for those who might be new to this whole thing, can you give us a quick rundown of what SUI Network is?
SUI Network, think of it like a platform for building stuff.
Building what exactly?
Decentralized applications, all kinds of cool things. It's a layer one blockchain, meaning it's like the foundation, the base layer, sets the rules for everything built on top.
Okay, so if it's the foundation and it goes offline.
Big problem.
Right.
Blockchain's supposed to be like always on, always running.
Exactly. No downtime. So this 2-hour outage on November 21st, that's got to raise some eyebrows, for sure. Especially since SUI's, selling itself as this faster, more stable alternative.
Right. So walk us through what actually happened, what went wrong.
So you've got these things called validators, right? They keep the network humming. They're like the record keepers, verifying transactions, adding new blocks to the blockchain.
Kind of like a digital notary, making sure everything's legit.
Yeah, something like that. But during this outage, these validators just stopped producing new blocks. Everything ground to a halt.
And Sui's blaming this on a scheduling bug. What does that even mean?
Think of it like a really complex dance routine, right? Dozens of dancers, every step perfectly timed, one tiny miscalculation, and
The whole thing falls apart.
exactly. That's kind of what a scheduling bug can do to a blockchain.
Mm.
Throws off the flow of information, causes chaos. And in Sui's case, total shutdown.
Wow, okay. But what's interesting is this outage happened right after Sui had this huge surge in users.
Right. Between November 7th and 19th, their daily active users jumped from like 668,000 to 826,000.
That's a massive increase. Do you think that could have, triggered the bug somehow?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's definitely possible. The increased activity could have put a strain on the network, maybe exposed a weakness that wasn't apparent before.
So, too much traffic on the highway, and suddenly there's a crack in the pavement nobody noticed?
Kinda, yeah. Makes you think about how these networks handle growth, right? You want more users, but can your system actually handle it without falling apart?
Right. And it's not just a tech issue, it's about perception too, right?
Oh, absolutely. When a blockchain, especially one marketed as super stable, goes down, people lose trust.
Big time. And I bet the Sui community was not happy about this.
There were definitely mixed reactions. Some were understanding, praised the quick fix.
Okay, so some people gave them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, saw it as a temporary glitch. But others, not so much. They saw this as a major warning sign.
Yeah, if Sui can go down, any blockchain can go down.
Exactly. The article even quoted one ex-user saying, 2 hours of downtime for SUI network. That's a massive red flag for a blockchain that's supposed to be cutting edge.
Ouch. Yeah. I mean, especially with that whole Solana killer thing.
Right. That label's looking a little ironic now, doesn't it? Especially since Solana had its own nearly 5-hour outage back in February.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So even though they call it the Solana killer, Sui isn't immune to these problems. Makes you wonder if that nickname even holds up anymore.
Right. I mean, look, every blockchain's got its challenges, its vulnerabilities.
True. Okay, so what about the price of SUI, the network's cryptocurrency? What happened during the outage?
Well, it took a hit, for sure. Went from around $3.70 down to $3.35 in those 2 hours.
Ouch, so a noticeable dip.
Yeah. Recovered a bit to $3.54 by the time the article came out, but still, that initial drop. It shows how sensitive the market is to this stuff.
Right. So do you think this could have a lasting impact, damage investor confidence in Sui long term?
That's the big question, isn't it? This definitely raises some doubts. Will be interesting to see how SUI handles this moving forward.
Absolutely. This whole thing kind of makes you think about the bigger picture, If a network like Sui, with all its hype and supposed stability, can go down, what does that mean for blockchain as a whole?
Yeah, it's a good question, especially as more people start relying on these systems for finance, for data, for everything. How do we make sure they're reliable enough?
It's a big challenge, and one we'll be digging into more as we continue this deep dive. So we're back, and we're still trying to wrap our heads around this whole Sui network outage.
It's a tricky one, for sure.
Yeah, especially when you consider that whole Solana killer label. I mean, ironic much.
Right. Like we were saying, Solana had that almost 5-hour outage back in February.
And now Sui, the supposed killer, goes down for 2 hours. Makes you think twice about those catchy nicknames, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It highlights that no blockchain is immune to these kinds of issues, no matter what the marketing might say.
For sure. And I was scrolling through X and I saw this comment that really captures the sentiment. Someone wrote, SUI, the famed Solana killer, just had a 1 hour outage today. And contrary to what common sense may dictate, this is bullish. It's truly following the footsteps of the blockchain it's looking to replace. And we know how that went.
Ouch. That's a bit savage, but you gotta admit, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, there's definitely some dark humor in there. But it also speaks to the skepticism that a lot of people are feeling right now.
For sure, when a project that's supposed to be the next big thing stumbles like this, it makes people question everything.
Exactly. So, taking a step back here, what can blockchain projects do to avoid these kinds of outages in the first place?
Well, one thing that's super important is rigorous testing, like really pushing the system to its limits, trying to break it before it breaks in the real world.
So, kind of like crash testing a car.
Yeah, exactly. You want to make sure it can withstand a lot of pressure before you put it on the road.
Right, right. And it's not just about preventing outages entirely, but also about having a good plan B, like what happens if something does go wrong? How quickly can you get things back up and running?
Exactly. Having robust backup systems and recovery mechanisms is crucial. You want to minimize downtime as much as possible.
So it's like having a backup generator, right?
Well,
Keeps the lights on even if the power goes out.
exactly. And equally important is transparency. When an outage happens, projects need to be upfront about it, explain what happened, what they're doing to fix it, and how they'll prevent it from happening again.
So it's not just about solving the technical problem, but also about managing the communication around it.
Right. It's about building trust with your users. Being honest, even when it's uncomfortable, shows that you're taking the issue seriously.
Makes sense. So in the case of Sui, do you think they can recover from this? Will people forgive and forget?
It's hard to say. The crypto world moves fast, so people might move on to the next big thing. But this outage will definitely be a test for Sui. Their ability to fix the problem, communicate effectively, and regain trust will determine their long-term success.
Right. It's a defining moment for them. And for the blockchain industry as a whole, it raises some important questions about reliability and scalability.
For sure.
Yeah,
As blockchain becomes more mainstream, these issues are only going to become more important.
absolutely. And that's something we'll definitely be keeping an eye on as we continue our deep dives into the world of blockchain.
All right, we're back and ready to wrap up our SUI network deep dive. You know, this whole outage really gets you thinking about the bigger picture, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's a good reminder that blockchain, for all its potential, is still a relatively young technology. There are going to be bumps in the road.
Totally. And as blockchain gets more integrated into our lives, those bumps are going to have bigger consequences. Exactly. Yeah. We're not just talking about, like, funny money anymore. Blockchain's being used for serious stuff, finance, supply chains, even voting.
Right. So the stakes are getting higher. And we need to make sure that these systems are up to the task.
Absolutely. Reliability, security, those are non-negotiables.
So thinking long term, how do we make sure blockchain is ready for prime time? What needs to happen?
Well, for one, we need to keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible, technically speaking. Scaling these networks, making them more robust, more resistant to attacks.
Right. So the tech itself needs to keep evolving.
Yeah, but it's not just about the tech. It's also about the people.
What do you mean?
Well, we need more developers, more researchers, more people who understand this stuff inside and out. And we need to educate users, help them understand the risks and the potential.
So, like blockchain literacy for everyone.
Exactly. The more people understand this technology, the better equipped we'll be to use it responsibly and ethically.
That's a good point. It's kind of like the early days of the internet, right? People were figuring it out as they went along.
Right. And just like the internet evolved, blockchain will too.
Yeah.
But we got to learn from our mistakes, adapt, and build better systems.
Right. And the Sumi outage, as much as it sucks, it's a learning opportunity, right? It forces us to confront these challenges head on.
Exactly. It's a reminder that we can't just get caught up in the hype. We got to focus on the fundamentals. Reliability, security, transparency. Those are the things that will ultimately determine the success of blockchain.
Couldn't agree more. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today.
It's flown by.
It really has. But hey, this is just the beginning of the conversation, right? Blockchain is here to stay, and we'll be here to keep you informed and engaged every step of the way.
Looking forward to it.
So, to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep those critical thinking caps on. Until next time, stay curious.